I'm an unapologetic proponent of the Godzilla series. The franchise has yielded enough quality entertainment over its 50-plus years of existence to offset the majority of its missteps, and the evolution of its thematic place in the history of international cinema, if not a point-for-point parallel of the evolution of the ideological stance of the global film industry as a whole, is at least an interesting case study in and of itself. Now for me, the admiration not only stems from the veneration of cultural significance, but also from a pathological and often illogical sense of consumer fulfillment, which, in English, means that I'm also a qualified fangirl who's more than capable of allowing hype to cloud his judgment. So for the second week in a row, I'm proud to present to you a totally biased review, this time for Shin Godzilla, the latest installment in the aforementioned franchise and the first to be produced by Japanese parent company Toho since the dark ages of 2004. Speaking as someone who found the 2014 Godzilla to be pretty much everything I'd ever wanted, the hype train was without breaks in preparation for Shin Godzilla. Expectations were set accordingly for the Japanese response to the successful co-opting of an express symbol of a nationalistic identity crisis to not only a North American icon, but a worldwide one as well. What I did not expect was the movie we actually got. To be fair, some of the names attached to the project probably should have tipped me off, specifically that of directors Hideaki Anno, the man best known as the mind behind Neon Genesis Evangelion and the end of said Evangelion, and Shinji Higuchi, who also worked on Evangelion as well as the most overrated anime of all time, Attack on Titan. To those of you who are familiar with those works, no, I am not kidding, and for those of you who aren't, here's a crash course. Get really fucking baked and hit yourself in the face with various religious texts, and you'll pretty much have both down to a science. Okay, so I exaggerate a little bit. Regardless, out of the two most recent Godzilla outings, I certainly didn't expect to leave the theater under the impression that the American version was less transgressive. It all started within the first 5 minutes when a creature that was vividly not Godzilla rose from Tokyo Bay to awkwardly wriggle about in a flurry of Sharknado-level CGI before evolving, literally that's the term the movie uses, into Godzilla before our very eyes, because Godzilla is apparently a Pokemon now. Then he just leaves in what amounts to one of the most nonsensical prologues I've ever seen. What follows is, for lack of a better description, the closest we as a species have gotten to a live-action anime. The story, for the most part, depicts the response of the Japanese government to the sudden and immediate threat of Godzilla and a crack team of researchers trying to figure out how to stop him, all with the anime cranked up to like 12. I say for the most part because eventually this movie takes a hard right turn into the proselytizing world of one aging anime director's outlook on world politics. It honestly feels like I just sat down and listened to Anno tell me his honest opinion on all the major world governments, and also Godzilla was there. On the one hand, it is refreshing to see a thoughtful take on the franchise, with less of the hokey nature's ambivalence towards mankind theme, which at this point has been taken out for laughs so often that its legs have been ground into scarred and bloody stubs, for the more realistic, oh my god, we're all gonna die, what do we do sort of response. But with the dynamic duo's interesting direction, the film becomes basically the golden Oreo of Godzilla movies. The good stuff is still there, beneath the surface, but the audience has to wade through some seriously questionable design choices in order to get there. Sticking with the anime comparisons, the writing and cinematography are a 7-layer dip in thorough need of unpacking. Characters talk extremely quickly with very little space in between lines, so in scenes heavy with dialogue, which is a lot of them, it can be hard to nail down who is saying what at any given point in time. Scenes like these also feature quick cuts between close-up shots of characters speaking in sequence, which has a tendency to feel inorganic in a live-action setting. Also emerging from the graveyard of anime tropes is the movie's habit of giving absurd amounts of characterization to characters who don't actually do very much. Granted, it never forgets it's a Godzilla movie. Godzilla remains as he once was, a symbol of localized Japanese disasters, now referencing the Fukushima nuclear power plant and the 2011 Tohoku earthquake, as well as the classic reference to the atomic bomb. However, in the event that one couldn't pick up on the subtext through the whirlwind of anime tropes and off-color Japanese humor, the film will literally just show you. Needless to say, subtlety is not exactly its strong suit, but given the director's previous work, which featured a group of teenagers approaching the concept of maturity and responsibility like water to a grease fire, who pilot giant mechs to fight monsters from the Christian depiction of heaven, God is an enormous nude 12-year-old girl, and penguins secretly control the entire world, it's not all that surprising. So when all is said and done, after Tokyo has been trampled once more beneath our beloved lizard's massive thighs and disproportionately small head, which actually is not a sexual innuendo, is it a good movie? Maybe. Is it a good Godzilla movie? I'd say so. Despite it being presented like Pacific Rim as directed by Oliver Stone on the way down from a hit of the world's best LSD in a 24-hour marathon of the Big O, it still possesses a certain charm that could only come from the brightest and most batshit insane minds Japan can offer. It's a unique combination of the series seriousness of the 1954 original, the wacky camp offerings of the 60s and 70s, and the large-scale ensemble action of the 90s and early 2000s. It's not as good as the best, but not nearly as bad as the worst. If that sounds like your thing, go for it. If not, then congratulations on letting me steal 5 minutes of your life. Didn't look like you needed them anyways. Bye!